All right. Good morning, everybody. All right. Let's get into it right away. It's Friday. I'm going to take a look at the news. Let's see. I was just looking. I saw some French economic news that's already posted, so that's not really going to affect us at all. Let's see what else. CPI, GDP, France. That was like 15 minutes ago. Looks like there's maybe a few other things popping up here, but no like major red folder news that I think will affect the market too much. So, and we do have later today Chicago PMI 245, and then uh, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You've got one of the Fed speakers, Warsh, going to talk. So, um, let's get into it. Let's see what the charts are going to show us, and you know, kind of start to build out that roadmap like we did yesterday and the rest of the week. So, let me check just one other thing here. So for me, I'm I'm really brand new to this YouTube thing. So I'm going to try and do my best. That if someone puts a question in chat or anything, I will try to watch it and try to answer it. So, uh, normally for me, I was always just trading on a chart and that would be it. And so now I've added like a couple new layers, one talking through everything, and then three potentially looking through chat and trying to figure out what's going on there. So I'll do my best to add that extra layer today. All right, let's get into it. Let's see what we got here. All right, so looking first at daily. So we had a pretty good push up yesterday. Now the daily with this move up took out the sellers here, did a good job of getting past this chunk here. So now as I see this start to, do the swing more up, now what I'm starting to think is that this action today, my expectation is for it to continue to move up and probably get into this area, this imbalance that was created quite a while, about 10 days ago. At least a touch, 50% of that imbalance, 906, you're looking, it's less than 300 points away. So that's easily achievable. Um, you know, so now that we have started to make this turn up and we've got a close up here, that's above quite a bit of the other action. And we're kind of in this area right now. My expectation when I look at this is probably another update. So that's kind of my overall look at it, and you got to say, I don't have enough data on this chart, but um, when the daily back at the start of August made this big move up and they were able to close up here, they got above this big push down, they got above this push down. So with this push up, it sent the overall trend for the market up. All right, even though this is all looking very bullish, I'm looking just in this area, right? I'm looking just really in the action here. So when it moved here, trend up. This right here is like a smaller internal trend move down. So it appears that money is starting to correct and starting to get back on the side of this buy momentum with this right here. And the first clue was yesterday's candle closing well above all this down here, right? Now it still has something to really show. And absolutely 100% we're back on the side of money and moving up if, prices get above this area. So, all right. So that's the daily look. Let's look at the 4 hour. Let's see. 4 hour, give us anything new. All right. Well, this was a key area I had circled out. And you can see with this candle right here, we closed above that area. So the 4 hours also showing me momentum up, right? So now the important areas here, I think I marked this out yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. We'll mark it out again. It's a 4 hour imbalance. All right, right here. Yeah, okay. So I'll call this the 4 hour 50%, right? Just so we know it. It'll show up on our other charts so we get the idea of the area that we might be interested in if the price comes down here. But really, with this push up like this, getting above this area, so now I'm building confluence of daily appears to be back up, 4 hour appears to be back up. Kind of the interesting area for me is right here. If price does come down, what do they do here? A close below here for me would probably signal a move down into here, which is an interest area for me. And let me copy this. I think I did this yesterday, but I took it off. I like to start with clean charts every day. So, all right. We'll go 4 hour. We'll go first entry. How's that? Meaning this was the first candle to start this fair value gap. So these two areas, highly interested in trying to take a buy back out of this area if the money comes down. The only thing I got to really watch though is if the money does come down today and say London pushes it down, what do they do here? Is it just a wick out? Is it a candle close? Now, if they candle close it, then it puts this area more in jeopardy because now you're looking back at potentially a smaller internal shift of the sellers. They'll be back in control. So then you start to put a lot of your faith in that the buyers from here can still push this thing up. You never really know. They get down here. I might be facing a situation again where the higher time frame momentum is now against me. So taking a buy here is going to be against what's happening. And if that's the case, I just have to use some common sense on, what I target. So, but a buy out of this area on a 4 hour chart, I would start to think, from here and from here, my expectation is buyers are still in control and they take it right back to the highs. So that's a significant move. That's quite a few points. So if this area gets challenged, I'm thinking back up here, that's about a 300-point move. So that's a good healthy trade if that happens. So I'll leave this on here because obviously we're going to watch that area. And we're also going to watch up here because, we want to see the buyers still in control. We want to see a 4 hour candle close above here. Prefer to have it above the high because then for me, it's going to signal a move up here. It'll probably get past all this stuff. It'll most likely come up to here, which let's go ahead and mark this out also as another area of interest. And this would be, okay, so this would be a reactionary trade. because this is not on the side of the money moving, right? The side of the money moving that we can determine from daily and 4 hour is up right now. So if it comes up here, I'm against higher time frame. So, this may not be the area that holds. Maybe it's up here that has the better reaction. Would I think there would be a reaction out of this area? Yeah, I do, because that's a pretty healthy move down here. So I'm thinking there's still sellers going to be involved in all this area. Now, one thing that we could do, kind of interesting, I like to do this, take a look at Fibonacci, go from the top all the way down to the very bottom here. And let's just kind of see where this puts us. So you can see, based on this big move down from sellers that started like on August 16th, you can see, if we put a Fibonacci on here, that the 50% is right where we are right now. And you can see prices kind of going sideways here. It's because this is your value area from this big move down. And you're looking at sellers coming in, trying to push it back down. You're looking at buyers trying to come in because it's still at value for everyone. So who wins this, we don't know. But what I would be more interested in from this is, what can help me if I'm going to take a sell trade against momentum, and we're going to give a what if scenario. what if the buyers do continue to push this up? Well, for me, a really good area is going to be the golden zone, the optimal trade entry area, which is going to be right around here, which, funny enough, is really close to this fair value gap that I'd be interested in. It gets to be in this area. Now, this pink area, I think what this indicator is trying to show is, basically, if you go back to here, and let me show you real quick, this area right in there. See this black candle right here? I think they're trying to show it as like a supply area that's almost like a breaker block. But I mean, I wouldn't consider this like a order block at all. So I think this is showing like the supply from this area was taken over. So then they highlight this. So this could be seen as like a resistance area. And normally I wouldn't even consider that. Like, I would look at it and say, no, not really what I'm interested in. But the only reason why I am a little bit interested in this is that this area on the chart that shows with this lighter pink area with that white line is smack dab on the golden entry at 65%. So, probably what I would do, because I would be against money, momentum would be up if it gets up here. I would look at moving my entry. So let's do this. Let's change this to black so it's consistent with my green one. And okay, let's do this. Let's say this will be the call it the 4-hour first entry. So it's going to be like I put entry in twice. I don't need that. All right, there we go. And I'm going to move this to right here. Okay, let's get rid of that. Okay, so that's my interest area. So same thing down here. See this 4-hour first entry right here. We're going to say the same up here as we look at playing edges for reactions. 4-hour first entry. It's going to be right in this area. So you can see we got this, candles pushing down on the 4-hour. If it comes up here to this fair value gap, I could very well miss the trade. It could hit this, react, and push down. But, I need to be careful because by the time price gets up here, I'm probably, like I said, going to be against money and momentum on bigger time frame. So I want to look at where do I want to get in to give me the best possible chance. So I'd have an entry here. And I'd probably also look at the 65% because honestly, so many people trade that. And I know someone did a did a Fibonacci just like I did right here, showing the same thing. So let's go ahead and take this off. Let me rename this one. And I'm just going to call this, just so we remember, we'll call this the 65%. So really, these two are kind of a golden zone optimal trade entry based on the 4-hour move down. It gets all the way back up here. It starts to move above the halfway point of this move down. This becomes more expensive. There's going to be people here, most likely, that will engage this area to push it back down. Where could I look for a target? Well, for me, it'd be pretty simple. It would be to move back towards the 50%. And I know that the 50% of the move is going to be, let's highlight this different, is going to be right in this kind of area. This action, right? This sideways action that we've seen so far today and where things are playing out, that would be my target. Where exactly I would target, not 100% sure because you don't know what the candle structure is going to look like as it comes up to this area. But we can get an idea of the risk of this so I can start to budget this out and see where would I put my stop. Well, I probably put it above this candle here because I'm counting on this area to hold and produce something. So, I'm going to go above there. So it's pretty expensive. It's 160 for this first entry. And this one is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of, we'll just roughly say about $90. Okay, so now my goal is to see, can I refine this entry area to maybe allow me to get into a better position, get a better entry here. I'm also interested in getting a better entry down here. All right, so I'm going to highlight these areas. Just so I can look on like lower time frame if the price gets down. So, and just to be clear, what I'm looking for here are the edge type entries. So this is going to be a buy back to get to the high. This will be a sell up here to get back down to like 50%. And that's really my thought. So let's mark out this whole area. So we have 2 4-hour areas of interest, okay? Cool. So the reason why I marked it like this down here, like here it's a little bit different, right? Because I'd have my stop up here. There's 2 areas of entry there I'm interested in. Let me redraw this a second because I want to get this line right on that 50% of that. Good. Sometimes you really need to be precise on your entry drawings because price can come right to it and react right from it, like to the tick. And if you're off by, 1 tick, you're going to miss the trade. So that's a common thing when you start doing this kind of stuff. It doesn't always work that way, but you see it happen. All right, we'll leave that on there for reference. So, I've got my stop 2 entries here. What I would look at is I have an entry here, which is 50% of this fair value gap. I'm not going to mark it like this because Price has already dipped down here. They've already used it to here. So my next point of reaction is going to be in this area, right? I know that my stop here probably going to go down around this area. You know, I want to be below this big candle here, because if price gets below this candle, the low is probably in jeopardy. Because the sellers, by the time they get down here and they do that, they're going to be in full control, full momentum. Okay, so we got our edges drawn out on 4 hour. Let's look at 1 hour. Okay, so 1 hour looks pretty ugly, especially this in here, because I mean, there's a few things we can kind of take a look at, you know, expectations and what we're hoping and wanting to happen. But let's go with what the chart tells us. Okay. So really the last big push here was this guy, right? So buyers are in control. This is what put the buyers on the side of the momentum with this candle. So key point right here, right? Because all this is inside. It's all internal kind of garbage, right? It's up, down. So this is a key area, and this is a key area. Very similar to yesterday. So this big candle pushes up. This is at the close again of yesterday, which is always a little bit of a concern because volume can be much less after hours, right? So what happened? They pushed it up. Buyers are in control. Buyer momentum. Sellers brought it down. They couldn't take out the buyers. So buyers are still in control. Buyers try to push it back up. All they can do is wick it, right? They don't candle close it above here. So now the sellers bring it back down, and now we're seeing where the sellers bring it back down. They close below the buyers right here, right? So you have to say that overall, buyers are in control, but the internal action, the smaller time frame, you know, what's been going on today is the internal side, which was really important to monitor from here. The sellers got below it. So overall, on the 1 hour, momentum shows me up with this big move, but the sellers, they come down, and you're thinking, okay, my expectation, buyers hold this, they push it up, they take the high. Well, if you look up here, this green line right up here, that's the high from yesterday. Look at what the buyers did. They pushed it all the way up and missed it by what? I don't know. We'll call it half a tick, if that's such a thing. It's really with, let's see, you've got 707.25 and the high is 707.50 is 1 tick. Buyers went all the way up, and that's the expectation. Take that high. They couldn't do it. So there's something up here that's holding price down. So, you know, sellers move it down, they close below. That's a little bit of a warning flag that maybe the buyers are going to have some trouble. So after this happens, now my big focus moves to kind of this whole area in here, right? This green candle is really garbage for me. So, you know, do I call this buyer strength right here? No, not really. That was the push that they tried to take out the high and couldn't. So this whole area is interest for me. And what I'd want to see is buyers, if they move past here, take control. Expectation moves once again to take the high. If the sellers can get below here again, then expectation is challenged here, right? So this is really important area in here for the buyers right here, more so temporarily than right here, because this would be the target for the sellers to get to. The buyer's going to try to hold this. They're going to try to use this first hour candle of London get it higher. So we can look on a smaller time frame to really dig into this a little bit better. But for now, areas of interest are here and here. Anything in this area between this high and this low is really internal movements, choppy. Um, Hopefully we can get a better indication, with the first hour when it closes, and when we have our IB set, we can figure out maybe a direction. Are we gonna, move up, challenge, or are we gonna move back down and challenge this? For me, this move down, I want to see a challenge. And when I mean a challenge, I want to see this candle come all the way down and get into this price down here. If this is the best that the sellers can do and not even get to the low of this candle, then I would think my expectation is that this area gets challenged. So a challenge for me is the price is gonna get into the area, not 50% of the candle or almost the low. No, this is not a challenge to me. What this is a clue to me that maybe the sellers don't have enough power or they're not in control enough to continue this move down, right? Because once again, buyers overall in control. This is internal. Sellers temporarily in control on the internal side, but this first hour of London will show us more. So we don't really know direction off of London quite yet because we have mixed signals, right? We've got buy overall, internal, sell. All right. We'll come back to that once the IB is set and we see the first hour done. All right, let's look at the 30-minute. So 30-minute, we bring in volume profile. Volume profile. We also bring in my famous no trade area. So let's mark that out. All right. Where am I not going to trade today? During London, at least, right? Because this will change by the time New York gets rolling. All right. My no trade area is always POC area, becomes my junk zone. And the Asia open and yesterday's close, it's almost the same line. I mean, they're probably, like a tick away from each other. So you may not see it on the video. You might be able to see if I zoom in close. So you get this purple line is yesterday's close. Yellow line is Asia session open. All right. That is officially right there. And let's see. Let's also do this today. And we'll do a Fibonacci from the high to the low of today and see where the 50% is. All right. So you see where that 50% is? It just so happens to also be the POC of today, where the most people have traded contracts today. So POC and 50% of the move today is right same spot. We know 50% can be a battle. We know POC can be a battle. VWAP can be a battle. Asia open and yesterday's close can be a battle. So this officially becomes a no trade area for me here. So what would I be looking for? Like I said yesterday, I don't want to put an entry in here. I don't want to have a stop in here if I can avoid it. So trade ideas in here for me don't really happen. Now I have in the past taken trades where my entry is on the one side of this junk area and my stop is on the full other side. And maybe another way to look at this too is kind of this junk area. Yeah, there's volume there. There's lots of things there. So, right now, currently, what we have in prices below this area, it's going to take some work for the buyers to get control and push through this. They're going to be pushing through everything, different levels, VWAP, POC, high volume area, the 50% of the range today so far for Globex. So, we'll have to see how this plays out and where everything lays out for roadmap. But I think, yeah. So we just had this candle close. What could they do? What couldn't they do? That's what I'm always looking at, right? So um, here was like the last half hour of Europe. They pushed up. First half hour of London, they push it down hard. I see this big candle. My expectation is, oh, you're going to challenge this right here. So far, no. All right. So that's one clue. Because as we look into the price action a little bit deeper, from the 1 hour, this was the overall move up, right? And then you see that move down, 30 minutes, they move it back up. They cannot hit the high. So then the sellers push it all the way down. They do right here with this move down, they do close it below these buyers here. And I'm looking at the bodies. I do also look at the wicks, but I look primarily at the bodies to give me the analysis I'm really looking for, because I feel like that's an important clue, is the actual body and where's the body of the candle closing, right? Wicks are important too, especially if you start seeing sweeps, at the body, lower body area of a candle. If this black candle here was just a big old wick and it wicked below here, but then the next candle closed up above, then immediately I'm starting to think they just came down here to take stops and then push it back up. So, but this right here for me is a clue that, okay, we've got move down, we've got momentum down. So on a 30-minute, if you're going to look at this and say, well, we have some short-term momentum down, you would technically have right here, because this is like the last big candle push up. That's a solid push. This right here would basically be like your order block, right? So let's load this up. We'll call this a sell order block. What does that look like? Okay. So you've got like this area up here is like an order block to sell, right? This last green candle. I don't take the wick, it's just the body. They finally pushed down here. Now they haven't come back up and tested this or touched it, right? But I would expect some type of reaction in this area, because you have this move up and immediately it was reversed with the momentum down. So reaction out of here, highly likely. You also have the value area high. And if we're going to consolidate and be in the middle for London, then I would expect that, they defend those and always try to keep pushing the price action towards the middle. The middle today is POC and kind of the VWAP. So next half hour will be important. We want to see the candle close to give us the full story, at least on 30-minute. So 30-minute really not showing me too much right now. I do have this area up here though. It's interesting to me. I may consider something out of there. All right, that's on all the charts. So we can look a little bit better, maybe get a little better entry in here, because I'm guessing this is a pretty good risk on this. No, it's not too bad. $90 to take that trade. But I would look for other entries in here to maybe get more than 1 or 2 contracts. Maybe we get 3, 4. Then I can kind of manage it a little bit better. All right, let's see if we have anything up higher in that 4-hour area. Oh, we got to go back. I don't know if I have enough data. Let's see. Okay. So this area in here was the 4-hour area I was looking to engage in, which was the 65% Fibonacci golden zone area. Is there other things in here that could be maybe a better entry? Well, if I don't want to take this first one, because I know it's expensive, I do have a few other things in here too. And one area I'd be looking at would be this guy right here, which is, you've got this fair value gap that's never been touched on the 30-minute, that entry. So Now, what did that do? Well, my initial risk is 155. And then if I took that entry instead, it would reduce my risk down by like to 134. You save like 21 $21 on that. So, and that gets me closer to getting maybe 2 contracts. So it's something to think about. I'm also going to mark out this last candle up here. There's a 50% on that. We'll mark that one out also. All right. So that's really all I'm going to see up there. I really prefer to be on the buy side because as of right now, for me, the higher momentum is buyers are in control. Do I really want to fight the buyers on the higher time frame? Not really. So do I see anything on the low end here that could be interest to get in and move it back up? Well, some magnets. I don't know if I've ever talked about this, but yesterday you have to look at the POC because it's still relevant for today. And there is a POC that's right here. And this borderline right here in the middle is yesterday, and this is today. So one thing that the price action today will want to do, they'll want to revisit this POC from yesterday. And so would I be surprised if the price came down here and hit that? No, because it happens a lot. I think people call this like a naked POC, meaning it hasn't been touched yet. And that's why the line projects out for future price action. It's a high level target. So that's something I want to be aware of and really think about. And it would put this 30-minute fair value gap at pretty high risk. If I looked at this 50% in this first entry, I mean, I would almost immediately assume that I'm going to be in drawdown because I know price wants to get down here to at least touch that. You also have a pivot point right below this fair value gap. So even though this would put me into momentum for a buy, I feel like this is just too risky for me. So I would want to look for entries. Let me give my circle down in this area would really be a higher level interest for me, where at least I've got a few things that I'm thinking about is that the price was to come down here and touch POC from yesterday, touch pivot point from today, that this would be an area where maybe price comes down, they touch it, they wick through it, they get what they want, and then they just push it up and out. So that's a thought for me right there. Let's see. Any other ideas? Let me make sure this shows up on all my charts because I want to look at lower time frame and see if there's something in here that maybe I can think about getting involved in. So, all right. So 30-minute, we have to come back, revisit once that candle closes because right now it's not really giving good direction for me on what they want to do. All right, let me get this centered. Let me bring it back up. Okay, so that's our 30-minute. Let's look at the 15, where I like to do more of my entries. So you see the circle I drew from 30-minute. I'm interested in there. We can look at this maybe a little later if price comes down here, but for now, let's look at closer price action. Okay. Let's tackle up high first. Okay, so up higher, where I had, this is basically that 30-minute order block, right? So if I look on the 15-minute, I've got buried into this order block is a better entry. Like if I take the full thing it's going to cost me about $90, we'll say, right? But in here, I don't know how well it shows on YouTube, but in here, I've got a fair value gap that's untouched on the 15-minute. You know, this big push move, or big move that pushed down, you know, this is like an important area. They achieved something by pushing the price down and getting below the buyers here. So I would feel like there would be a reaction in here. Now, of course, the higher you get into this move, the more in jeopardy it is to get wicked out. And I mean, you saw that yesterday because you never know. Once the buyers get momentum, they start pushing up, and it's back on the side of higher time frame momentum. You know, they're going to want to get through this high, right? But let's do this. Let's move this up here because I'm more interested right in that area now. So I've kind of taken that 30-minute order block, and I've kind of moved it up a little bit higher for an entry. Because I really don't want to get in right at the start of that order block. I'm going to continue to look at where do I want to get into the trade, right? Because I know once this IB is set, I'm going to have targets up here. They're going to want to hit those targets, right? At least the 125 and 15. Europe has already placed their 2.0 target up here, which really digs into where I'd be looking to trade out of. So I have to be careful, but let's mark some entries in on the 15-minute. So I've got, this is an entry, that's where the fair value gap started. You get the 50%, right? And then I have where the fair value gap ended, right? So those are my entries, all right? Can I get all three and kind of get my price averaged in? Let's see. All right, first one, $60, middle, about 48, some 108 in there. We'll call it about 36, right? So I'm at 144, $144 risk to take 3 contracts, be able to manage 3 contracts, and start to target back down here towards POC. Seems like a good deal to me. I like this. It's well below my budget of 200, and I get three good solid shots at making something happen there, right? And if price just runs through it, like it doesn't even exist there, so be it. But I know I'm within my budget, my risk, and I can take 3, potentially 4. We'll see. 5-minute, maybe 5-minute gives us something up here that we're interested in. Okay, on the downside on the 15-minute, we got that same fair value gap area I'm not interested in. It needs to be in this circle area. So for me, honestly, maybe the only thing I could see, just like some of these orange areas that get marked out for like supply and demand, I do have one area on here. It's a 15-minute. You can see in this lighter blue color. I wouldn't take the first entry because I still feel like price is probably going to wick through all this fair value gap, get down here. You got targets down here. So my first entry, I think, is going to be like, oh, that's not it. Let's go here. I think that's it. Yeah. Okay, so that's 50%. That's 50% of this blue area, right? And then I also have another area in here, which, okay, so if you look at this one may be hard to see on YouTube. So let me get rid of this circle because I'm starting to get into the area now. All right, let me re-add the circle to highlight a candle. This guy right here is the last candle of this push down, right? This solid candle in here. That's one I'm kind of focused on. And I would call that an order block. This indicator highlighted that with this different shade of blue. I'm not interested in this first touch area of the order block. I'm not really interested in the body, although that could be decent there because you do have POC from yesterday, which is good. But I know if the price really starts to move and London makes their targets here in 15 minutes, they're probably going to throw, it almost looks like the targets are going to be just a little bit farther. So a little bit farther down. So there's a really light black dashed line that shows the 50% of this candle. And I'm going to mark an entry there. So my stop on this is going to have to be down here. I don't want to put it any lower than that because if sellers can really push it and get down, I'm thinking they're moving all the way down, maybe to this pivot, maybe down here to this area. So this is all I'm going to give it. Is this a good area? Yeah, I really think the buyers are going to defend this because if you look at the chart, this big push down, okay, they couldn't really get past this area here. The buyers stepped back in and they went past these sellers. So I would expect that overall, with the buyers in control on the bigger time frame, sellers move down to this area, buyers step back in with their goal, getting it back to the top of the market. So overall, buyers want to get it back up here. Shorter term internal, what's happening right now, at least what I see on the chart, unless something changes, the internal from just today is saying, no, we want to get down lower. So with that in mind, I'm only interested in taking buy trade. So out of all these scenarios from the extremes today, and then we'll focus on closer momentum on the extreme trades, which one is probably the safer shot? It's probably the buy down here because you clearly have movement up here that is gaining control and shows me control on higher time frame. So to take a sell from here, much more risky in my idea, because by the time this price gets up here, the buyers are going to be showing some strength. And do you want to fight that? I think it matters how fast do the buyers come up. Are they showing some serious momentum? If they are, maybe not a good trade to get into until the buyers kind of run out of steam and the sellers take control and maybe change some structure. And then you could look to sell out of this higher area. Okay. Let's just look. I know my risk on the top. Let's look at this risk. So if I take a buy from here, we're looking at, we'll call it about 75 bucks on the first entry, second entry, 64. So you're looking, roughly around what, 140, 140 bucks. It's almost the same risk. It was about 140 up here, 140 down here. And for today, I'd take them both, just so we can see how they play out. Okay. All right. So let's zoom in on momentum and what is price doing right now. So we're coming up about 12 minutes before this is set. As I zoom in, I'm looking for who's in control. So these buyers really pushed up. Sellers came back down. Could these sellers close below these buyers? No, they couldn't. They stopped short and they wicked it. So now my expectations switch a little bit, that the buyers are able to control this down here. And they wouldn't let the price go lower right here. And now if the buyers step back up and we get momentum, they get back above the 50% of Europe, then my expectation starts to switch a little bit. And where are they going to go? Probably to my famous junk zone, which I think I drew that on the 30 minute. So let's add this to all the charts so we can see it. All right. So junk zone would now be my target. So we have 10 minutes and I can't just hop into this trade because what kind of trade would that be? It would be an I think trade, and I think trades usually don't win. Um, so, uh, but my expectation now is if on this 15-minute candle, it closes above these sellers right here, it's going to at least go challenge the junk zone, right? It's going to get back up here because in between where it is right now and there's nothing really holding it back. So, my expectation is they throw it back into the junk zone, and then it dances around for a while until we get a good clear direction. So let's watch that. It's really nothing else that I see on the 15-minute right now that I'm interested in. All right, let's hop down to the 5-minute, get a little closer look. All right, let me go look up here. So this is my reactionary extreme areas. Was there better entries on the 5? Yeah, there is some good stuff up here too. And what I can do is maybe, because I was going to take 1, 2, 3 entries, and I know I was about 140. I could move one entry to a little bit different direction or location. And you see this 5-minute fair value gap, the very last one, that 50% right there. I'm going to move one entry up a little bit higher. So now I think what I can do within my budget is get 4 contracts on this. One at the very start, one here, and 2 here. And I'll still be below 200 budget. So that's doing a little bit of refinement on the 5-minute for the sell. Let's look at refining the 5-minute on the buy. All right. So I know the buy was in this area, right? Because my stop would have to be there. So is there anything that I could look at? And primarily what I'm looking for is like, something a little lower that I could get maybe one more entry in there. Because I know this was like from this point down to this point, this was about 140 risk for me. Is there really anything else that I could look at as being like another place to maybe enter a trade? The only other place I can think of. Now this indicator is saying this right here is a strong low. I look at that and I think maybe that's not a half bad location to get into a buy, because honestly, so many times, let's see, do I have a 5-minute? Because I want to mark this out. Oh, that's right, I don't have 5 minutes, so I got to rename this. Okay. Gosh, I think I've done this several times this week. So we'll call it 5-minute, all right? So we know our 5-minute zone. So why would I want to maybe enter here? Well, that's kind of your, at least on the 5-minute chart, it's your initiation point for this giant move up, right? Because before that, this move that started, which is still important to me, kind of got the ball rolling, right? Where they moved here, they got above these sellers here. That's like the little baby step. And it's like the warning that we might be changing, and they really did. They changed it right here. Was kind of that point where sellers, you're not going to go any lower than right here. We're not even going to let you come all the way back down and challenge this. So honestly, for me, that right there could be an excellent point for a reactionary trade to go back up, because I know there's buyers still there. Because if sellers get that and they can control that, then it's probably going to go down even lower. So let's look at my risk here. We've got about 5 minutes until IB set. So overall, I'm sitting at about 74 for the first. We'll call it 64 for the next. So 144 and one entry there, 36. So mental math, 182, I think. Hopefully that's right. 182. So I can take 1, 1, and 1. And then on the high side, I can take 1, 1, and 2 and stay in budget. So I got my roadmap. I got my edges all worked out. and just in time because IB's going to set here. We're going to have our new hour, and then we're going to figure out what's the plan. Now, if the edges get engaged, I know my trades are there. Do I want to just sit and wait until those get engaged? Not really. If I can hop on some momentum and price action now, maybe we take some smaller stuff. I don't want to trade in the middle. I don't want to trade my junk zone, but um, we'll watch probably lower time frame here, and we'll see what they can do on the 5 minute. As y'all know, I'm not a breakout trader, but if they start to move and they get candle close outside of something, it's really important for me to take trades, little less risk, because you never know how far it's going to go. So, you want to see the displacement go through the IB area. And then the way I always trade is I pick a location that I want the price to come back to, so I get a better price. And then I'm counting on whatever momentum we see out of the initial balance. I'm counting on that to still be there and continue. And I really want to see that not just only on a small time frame, but a higher time frame. Because if the momentum's going to continue, and usually it does, then we can target the low of that displacement or the high of that displacement, because that's our expectation, is continue. But obviously, if they suck it back into junk zone or back into the initial balance, then you're a little more at risk in terms of just getting chopped up. So if you play closer to the action and you play the momentum, you don't want to have like crazy stops, realistic, common sense. So that way, if you do lose, because if you do play smaller time frame, you will lose more often. So you just want to be able to not over leverage, not go crazy. And I see some stuff coming through. Oh, German unemployment. Okay. Let's see if that does anything. So we got 3 minutes. 3 minutes until a new hour. All right, just watching, taking a look at a few other charts here to see if shows me anything. All right, let's back here. Down. All right, so we just want to watch. Want to see what happens with this 5 minute candle. How does it close? Could tell us a lot, especially with this nice push up here. But the one thing I would say that I'm really watching is, you had this push down on the 5 minute, got all the way down here. Buyers came all the way up. I would be expecting that you see this line that says internal high, which was this candle. I would have expected with this nice healthy push up, the buyers get above that. With the candle body and candle body close would have been a great clue that they would take it up here. The fact that they brought it from all the way down here, how far is this? Let's see. Just to get an idea. Okay. 117 ticks. So, they bring it like 30 points roughly all the way up here, and they just couldn't close the body above here. And then right after, the 5 minute candle opens right at that same level, but still not closed above, still didn't open above, so didn't gap above it. They wick it a little bit more, probably to take out any other sellers right in here, and then they start to bring it back down. So as I kind of analyze, what is the chart telling me? Well, that's a clue. This is also a clue. You got 1, 2 down candles. They couldn't get below this. So now, kind of a closer micro area. Did I just lose my connection? No, maybe not. Oh, that was weird. I thought my charts froze. I swear that NQ was staying at the same price for a minute. That was strange. Not used to seeing that. Okay, so I drew out kind of real kind of micro movement for me, which for me is 5 minutes. I don't need to go lower because lower is going to be a mess. I already know that you start looking at higher time frame, like 30-minute, you got a doji bar, right? 30-minute doji bar, which equates to 15 minutes of doji bar and just sideways action, which also equates to even worse sideways action on 5 minutes. So you start to see consolidation on high time frame. It's already, or sorry, you start to see doji bar on higher time frame. It means as you move down to lower time frame, it's going to be consolidation and chop, right? So it just kind of makes sense. So you can almost predict how a lower time frame chart's going to look by looking at one candle on the high time frame. All right, so this is key, right? We're 1 minute into, or we'll call it 2 minutes now into this 5-minute candle. What do they do right here? Not going to jump into anything. I'm not having FOMO. If I miss the trade, oh well. Oh my gosh, there's a million trades a day you can take. So, and I don't get involved in breakouts. And, price is very jittery. It's maybe a good description for it right now. And, I want to see what can they do here? This is new hour. There should be something that happens here. If not, what happens up here? And we'll know maybe we'll know at the end of this first 5-minute candle if the price of this 5-minute candle closes in between here and here. Then we wait. We wait for another 5-minute candle, or we wait and see what does a higher time frame candle tell us. Because right now, this doesn't tell us anything other than they wick down here and they tried to push it up here and couldn't get there. So this action here with the wick and price move back up tells me highs in jeopardy. But also the big surge up and the fact that the sellers brought it down tell me low could be in jeopardy and maybe we move lower. So when you start getting mixed signals like that, you just wait. You just have to patiently wait, because you can imagine, unless you're scalping on like 1 minute or 2 minute, this is really a dangerous area to be in. And you're probably going to get chopped up with trades. And, yeah, it's not a super big range right now. You got 90 up to about 26. So about a 36-point range in all this garbage. They popped out up here, but, just this kind of general area is what I'm thinking about. This area here, it's about 30 points of just up, down. And it shows the same on the other charts here. So we just wait. We wait to see, can they achieve a target? Can they get to some areas? Now, if they do get down here, right, which let's take a look at the target that London threw on here. They have a target of 125 that is POC yesterday. Will this be a reaction move to get back up? Yeah, it could be highly likely. But from the time I took from refining my trades, I don't want to get in right here because the POC of yesterday is where most of the volume was traded, which tells me there's a massive junk zone in this area. I want to be out of that. Like, I would rather be down here and target the POC from yesterday, right? Get out of this area, get down into here, hit a target. I'm going to take it back for a buy and hope the buyers are still present. One thing I do like about this entry now is it is a target for London. If you can see, I have to kind of make it bigger here. See that little dash cyan that says 1.5? That's a target for London. So do I expect if the sellers can maintain control that it gets here? Yeah, I do. And that's where I'm also looking to engage and take it back the other way. So whether it wins or loses, it doesn't matter. I don't care. I'm taking the trades where I want to get in. All right, so let's look at this on the 5-minute perspective. 5 minutes has showed us a candle push and break outside of Europe IB and London IB. So expectation right off the bat from that candle is go hit a target, which they did. They got Europe's target. They almost hit the POC right to the line, and they almost hit London. Can I get into a trade up here? I could, and maybe we try it so you can kind of see. Now, this is not a breakout trade because what am I looking for? Well, sellers got past the buyers. The sellers are in control. Now, I'm really interested in taking the buy out of here and trying that. But I'm also interested, now that I've got the sellers showing control, I want a retracement, right? This is where you can take like a Fibonacci just from this move, get an idea of where is the 50% of the move, where would buyers likely push it back up and the sellers get engaged again, right? So to really be safe on an entry on a sell, I'm going to look in this area, which you could say value area high or value area low. Could be a good area, and hopefully they defend it and they push it down. So, but we're just going to kind of track and go. All right, so London hit their target. All right, so really key here with 2 minutes left. Let's see what this one candle does here, right? Do they go lower or is this it? We don't know. If they push through, I'm going to be ready to buy here. Let me kind of queue up what I'm going to try. So I know it's 146. Okay. So I'll be ready there with an entry. Hopefully it doesn't move too fast down and miss it. But I also want to be ready for an entry in this area. And basically all I would do is I know value area low is kind of my optimal trade entry area. So I'd be looking to sell from here, stop, just gonna be above there. So it's only $32 to try it, take that trade, right? It's not bad. That's pretty good. All right, let's take these circles off. Let's clean up the chart. Let's watch what happens here at the close. So I may end up having to put like a trade on the chart, but then take it off, depending on how this moves. So, I'm just watching this price action here. This is good to watch and see. You know, are sellers still going to maintain momentum, or are they going to just die out right here? They hit their target, they're good, and now they're going to push it back up. I will still potentially try the sell trade if this candle still shows some strength down. If it's died out and they hit their target and they hit the POC, and then we had the reaction off of here, and this pivot point holds, then I probably don't want to fight the sell, but they did throw a fair value gap and imbalance here now. So we have that. Would I want to take the first touch on that? Not really. Now, it's interesting because the 50% of this imbalance is also kind of this big candle push up, which you start to look at that as being like a order block on a 5-minute. But for me, what I don't like is the move here didn't give me like a big push down, a big push away, right? It showed a little bit to me, but I want to see the price get down here. I want to buy it back up to here and potentially sell it back from up here. So maybe you see a little bit different trades from me today on closer price action. We'll see if it plays out. We just got to watch this candle. It doesn't look like it's doing a whole lot right now. So all right. Anything else going on in the market? Gold's had a decent move up. Oil looks to be a mess. A lot of sideways on oil. But gold's got a good push up. Real nice push up. And like I mentioned, same concepts, 5 minute, 5 minute, 15-minute, 30-minute, 1 hour on gold. Do the same thing. Same ideas. Okay. Let's get ready. Be ready. Really what I'd love to see, and I'll tell you, put a fib on this move, right? If it pushes all the way down here, that throws this fair value gap, this imbalance into the like 50% area, which would be a great location to take this reaction. But now they've already touched it. So that idea, we scrap it. Now, expectation may be starting to change a little bit. Why is that? They hit a target down here. Now, buyers have stepped back in. So would this trade have worked? We were talking about it, reaction from yesterday, POC, the pivot point, targets. Yeah, you got a really nice reaction there. But the problem with taking a trade right there is where would you put your stop? Yeah, we see it work. And, would I just blindly put a trade here? And, it's already gone for, 27 points, I guess. Yeah, about 27 points. Really nice reaction. But the problem is where do you put your stop if you take this trade? Well, you'd have to be here, and you at least have to get below all this, right? So it's $100 risk. But in order for this trade to pay off, for this touch, and it may or may not, a 1-to-1, $100, that means you're getting up here. So for this entry off the POC to react and push up, the buyers have to step in and they have to get back into this area. Be the only way. Otherwise, even though you had a nice push, you're asking quite a bit right now for the buyers to get through all this jump. So still the same thought, same idea. Seller's going to push it lower, maybe reaction point at the low, and we try to get the push back up. Because then I have it's just a better roadmap down here where my stop could be. And, I got other targets here that can be reactions where buyers are waiting. Sellers want to get there, but buyers are also waiting to to buy those levels and try to stop the price from moving down lower. I think there's still going to be a good defense here with buyers. You know, is there really anything else in there? Looking at one other chart. With option stuff. 22. Yeah, there is some stuff. It's much, much lower. So, I mean, it could be a situation where the price just blows through this area and gets me because it doesn't show on my chart here. Well, it shows a lot lower, lots of option stuff way down here by that 4 hour. Which, funny enough, when we drew this out, I wasn't even like paying attention to that. But you know, this reaction area has got a ton of stuff, and this reaction area has a ton of stuff. So really, what you're hoping for is like the option side to help back you up, and price doesn't get through here. But it can also be kind of bad because, you know, if I'm looking at like trying to take a sell from this extreme area, well, just above me is a bunch of stuff that the market wants to get to and challenge. So, which, you know, increases the risk of this. And, you know, we'd have to see. Like, I always mark these out because I think they're good entries. But they become bad entries with time and location. So, you know, if it's almost new hour and price is up here and it's just moving up like crazy, do you want to take that trade? Probably not. You probably want to try to get on the side of momentum. And then you'd be looking at a situation where you look for price to maybe touch one of these areas, retrace, and then you get back on the side with momentum to take the next. So I think I talked about this also the other day, where my entries for trades can also be targets for trades. So they kind of work both ways. So, you know, the sellers here, I want them to target where I want to get in for a buy, you know. So hopefully that makes sense. All right. It's funny, after 1 week of doing this on YouTube and just talking like for 2.5 hours every day, it's not normal for me. So I feel like I'm losing my voice. So I need the weekend to like recuperate. All right. So we want the market to do something. So we're going to see what happens. Another thing I'm watching, and you can see it from this chart. Let's move in a little bit. So POC is here, right? So what happens if they move the POC to here? Which it's really, really close right now, right? It's like probably not much volume would throw the POC down here. I'm looking to see it. A couple different charts if they have moved it down. And it looks like it has moved down on a couple different charts. Let me see if I can refresh that. Okay, still not yet on this chart. But, you know, we could start to think about if POC moves in this area, what does that mean for my junk zone? Well, junk zone for me, let's get the Fibonacci back out. We'll go from the high to the low is the halfway point of the day is junk zone. So this would technically move down. A junk zone box is probably going to start right around here. I'll show you what the new one would look like. So POC drops here. Let's just say POC drops here. I take in Asia Open and the close from yesterday, the VWAP and the 50%. My junk zone becomes there. And now I'm looking at price. You know, I don't want to get into entries or put my stops in here because there's just too many things that the price will want to get to. You know, there's just so many targets in here. Can happen with like one wick, you know? So not a good look to trade in the junk zone area. Right now it's up here, but if they move POC here, then my junk zone shifts down, which could make this area up here. So you can see if I snap the range from today, always looking for this optimal entry area. It throws it up in this area, which we do have 5-minute untouched fair value gap. We also have kind of this supply area here, which is in this area here. So, you know, I start to think about, well, we could get reaction here. The only thing that's bad about this trade, to be completely honest, is that the price does get back up here. It could have some pretty big momentum on the buyer side because they would be reversing a lot of this action. And if they get up here, there's a target here, there's a target here, there's lots up here. You know, I feel like they get up here, if there is no reaction, they're coming up here, where I've already shaved my entries and refined them down. So, all right, so all we can do is just watch and see what happens. This 5-minute candle, pretty much going sideways right now. So yeah, this action here doesn't really show us much, right? But they are building out of here, which, you know, when they start going sideways, they're building volume. They're building for the next move. So do they build and take it up, or do they build it and bring it down? We don't know. But chances are, you know, as I start to think about where would my target be, you know, if I get into a buy here, what am I going to try to target? Because I'm always watching what happens before it gets to my entry, right? And if they were to build a bunch of volume right here and then drive out of here and come down to here, then my target's most likely going to be in this area, because if they drop a lot of volume and they sell it out of here, I really can't shoot for the moon and say, well, my target's way up here. Yeah, the expectation is that. But if they drop a lot of volume that sellers use out of here, it's really going to be a challenge to get through there, to get up to there. So my target, my common sense starts to be, let's get back to the area they were building in. You know, maybe a candle body. You know, I'm not really interested in the wicks, but maybe a candle body. So, you know, what I'd be looking for is if this engaged, I'd just be moved back up to this box. So, you know, is it worth it? It still is for me. But all we can do is watch and see what builds in front of us. If they were starting to do this down closer to my entry, I would start to lose a little bit of faith in achieving a decent target, like 1-to-1 or close to 1-to-1. You know, obviously I always want more than that, but if I start looking at a trade and I start thinking, it's gonna be hard to get 1-to-1, maybe it's not the trade I want to take. So I become more picky when conditions start to change and they're not in my favor. So, okay, let's get rid of this because I don't want to move that just yet. Still monitoring, still looking, still waiting. We're waiting for price to show us something, tell us something. Let's go into another what if scenario. So what if the price comes up here and they close above here? Expectation is going to be they want to get to the high, but they have to get through this big old junk zone to get there. May not be too easy, right? Depending on how they would close this, it may not give me an opportunity to get too much, because that right there, 34 ticks. It's really not a giant open area to get from here to there. Maybe the best thing I could see is the buyers move the price back up here. They challenge this up here, but the sellers hold it. If the sellers hold this area, that 50% of, I'm looking at Europe, but more importantly, what has just been made in London. So if the sellers hold this area, and what I would be looking for is candle pushes all the way back up to here. Let me go more of an area. We'll say this area, right? I would love to see the buyers come all the way up, wick this, and then the sellers start to push it back down. Then I would consider a sell, and my expectation would be the buyers can't get above the 50%, so they're going to go back down and visit at least the initial balance low, ultimately the low that was made down here. So what I really don't want to see is this push down that the sellers have made. I don't want to see the buyers break that right now. Because if the buyers break it, they're going to come up to the junk zone, and then we're probably going to be stuck in here for a while. So, and part of that could be because of the news later. We get a lot of sideways action. But okay, is there anything else I could think about getting involved in if the sellers start to push down now? Well, my entry is also a target, right? So what would be a good scenario of getting involved in a sell, and where would I want to put my stop? Well, on just the Fibonacci side of the house, we're at the 50% from this move down, right? In this area, let's mark it like this. We'll just mark that out as like our optimal entry. If the sellers are still here, they're going to start to kick in anywhere in between this 50% in here. If the price starts to get above here, which the 78.6 is really close to the midpoint of the range of London, if the buyers start to push back through here and they close it, then it's going to go most likely to the high, and then we need to see what happens. Can they close it, or is it just a wick? If they just wick it, then we're really looking at a situation of some big time choppiness and sideways build. So, but if they only wick this top, then my expectation is we stay in this mode of build going sideways, and then I look to sell up here to take the lows down here, or something more common sense would be just the IB low. And then I'd just be playing the IB low, the midpoint, back and forth, which I didn't really do that yesterday. Or maybe that was 2 days ago when London was just going sideways. I think I have the video marked as like super consolidation day or something. I think I went back and counted, there was at least 6 trades that would have won. And that was just playing, where you want to target kind of the middle area of the build, and you give yourself like 1-to-1, so if the distance from here to the middle is say 20 points, you give yourself a stop at 20 points on the low side, and the same thing on the high side, and you just shoot for that middle point target every time. But you want to get yourself beyond the candle wicks, because you can see when you start to build sideways, candle wicks can be deadly for your trades. So heck, let's watch. Let's see what they do. Now, if they spend time here, that POC is going to move here. And maybe that's what they're waiting for. They're waiting maybe to move that POC down here before they make the next move. Because you can also look at the point of control as like a big value area of the day, you know? So you got several things on the chart kind of showing you, you know, is the price cheap? Is it expensive? You know, you can analyze that like I have right here on the Fibonacci. You know, technically right now in just this move down, the price is cheap. So they buy it back up, it gets here, becomes more expensive in this just this little micro move. So maybe you sell it from here. Do I blindly take a sell from here? No, because I don't like this down here. I don't like that the sellers couldn't give me a good push down. Sellers look weak here. Buyers reacted off of key levels, key areas, and they're pushing it back up. And this could clearly be a situation as we move into the new half hour here, where I know on the half hour there can be reversals. So what does this candle do? Okay, so you see the POC just moved down here, right? So what does that do to my junk zone? My junk zone now changes, right? So let's measure that out real quick. Let me take this guy. And I need to see where the 50% is for the day. That looks like it's going to be my high anchor, right? Right there. I got to take in the VWAP. I got to take in the Asia Open, yesterday's close, and I got to take in POC. That's my junk zone now. It's now moved. So if we get above the junk zone, maybe we got some daylight. Well, you see an opportunity where we can get into a buy, right? And I think I talked about, yeah, I talked about this area up here. This could be a reaction. Maybe this is worth a shot to try it because you just never know what the market's going to do. Now, if I use this area as a target, not to buy, but like reactionary to go down, which was made around midnight. We do have lots of volume still up here. This is where the POC was. Where would my entry be? All right, let's dig into that. So maybe this is worth a shot to see. So if I don't really see a good buy, because I don't want to be entering in this area, but we get out of the area, if no buys present themselves, maybe I look for a sell reaction back to go to the junk zone area. You know, that could be. So what I'd be counting on is the sellers are still up here holding that IB range high. Maybe a lot to ask because you can see this candle is really starting to move, right? This could be the candle that just blows through everything and goes all the way up here. Okay. But for YouTube, we can try it. So where would my entry be? Well, I'd probably look at 50% the fair value gap to at least get touched. The other entries, you got this area up here. It's like supply area, demand area. You got a 50% there. And you got a target for Europe here. You know, that can be an entry. You've got where this fair value gap started. That can be an entry. You know, where would I want to put my stop? I would probably keep it tight, keep it close. You know, if this candle really starts moving and pushing, it could easily just blow through this area. So you don't want to risk it too much, you know. And I think what was the risk on here? It's like $30. $30 to see if it plays out. Not a lot of risk. Okay, here's the key thing though, is if I enter here, and my stop is, we'll say, just a tick or two above this supply demand area. Can I get 1-to-1 if I engage this target? What does that look like? Well, I don't mind the opportunity because here, let me do it this way. Maybe YouTube can see it better. All right. There's my risk. What I'm looking for, let's copy that and paste it. So this is 1-to-1, 1-to-1. So this is my like risk block and where would I want to target? So if I go here, my target 1-to-1 is going to be right here, which it needs to get back into this junk zone and maybe closer to the VWAP. I mean, that's a magnet, it's a target. So if they push through the VWAP, they touch up here, I'd be hoping the sellers are still here and they push it back down to like VWAP, which would be a 1-to-1. So is this trade a possibility? Sure. Do I want to risk a lot? Nope. So we're looking at, let's kind of measure this out. 30 bucks, 26. So I'm at 56. You could say $77 and about 13. So I could actually get 4 contracts in this little area and it wouldn't even cost me $100. That is not too bad. That's not too shabby. But you know, small area to work in just means maybe more contracts, but it also means smaller targets. You know, you have to really have common sense when it comes to that because, you know, if I can get quite a few contracts in there, then I'm looking pretty good for, you know, managing maybe a few with a little bit bigger target. So, all right, at least short term, what has happened? Well, we're got through here. So if you blindly took the golden zone optimal trade entry from this push down, you obviously lost that trade. This big push up, they got above the sellers here. So now, you know, as you monitor this, you're looking for these buyers to get above here and establish control. So if you just look in this little micro moves in here, sellers were in control, buyers tried to come up, they couldn't do it, sellers regained control. So sellers have control point here and here. Buyers just took this one. So almost like thinking the same idea from a higher time frame chart. I think I was looking at the 1 hour. The same kind of thing applies here on the 5-minute, where if these buyers can get above here and close above this, then, you know, highly expect that they come up here. But once they do come up here, they're starting to get into the next control point, I would call it, of the sellers that is here. So I'm looking for a reaction out of here. You know, sellers accomplish something here, they accomplish something here. They did accomplish something here, but not super great job, right? So is there a buy out of here? Oop. Oh, you can't see anything if I do that. Okay, is there a buy out of here? It would be nice to see bigger push up and out, but where would my buy be on this one? I would hope that because London has been able to push and get above the 50%, my expectation becomes the IB high. If sellers push it back down, if the buyers are still here with this move where they just pushed it up, the area I'm looking in is going to be here. So same concept. Take from kind of this lower point to where the price is right now. Your 50% is going to be here. Your optimal trade entry is going to be in this area. My stop would have to be here. The challenging part here is like, what do you target, right? Because you're going to be fighting a lot. If the price comes back down, gets outside this nasty junk area, My entry and my stop is outside the area. But in order for me to get a target, and we can measure this out in a block again, right? Here's my risk, right? One block of risk for this trade. Where would my target be? Well, my target is going to have to be back at the high, right? So if they come back down here and I get into this, I got to get through the POC, right? And I got to try to get back to the high. So I got one thing I got to get through. Is that worth a shot? Maybe. I mean, the buyers are showing something here. At least on the 5 minute. Are they showing something on the 15? Let's look. Let me take this off. So it's getting in the way. Well, if this 15-minute candle closes up here and they close above this action down, then I start to like this trade even better for the price to come back down, get into the buy and try to go through it. Do I know it could be a long trade and encounter resistance? Yeah, for sure. It could be painful. A lot of sideways, you know, always around the POC. Let's see. We're not going to see anything on 30 minute, right? 30 minute is not really showing us anything. So the 1 hour, you know, what we saw, they tried to push lower. Yeah, they got lower. They wicked it out, not once, but twice. And now they're pushing back up. So my expectation on 60 minute, they keep pushing, they challenge this high, right? They challenge. Oop, what is that? That's a different circle. They challenge up here. So 645.25, which is going to be that guy right here. 4 hour, what is that looking like? Kind of looks like a doji still. Doesn't tell you much. Daily, we're just kind of a doji so far, right? So we may make a decision here. It could be an early decision because we don't know how this 30-minute candle is going to close. If this 30-minute candle closes as a bullish candle and it takes out these two sell candles and bullish, then, you know, same thing. I'm expecting it to go higher and establish control, get above this move down. Now, it's funny because, you know, smaller time frames really show you. I feel like I get this update every day. Smaller time frame can mislead you and show you like, wow, look at that. That looks awesome. But then you go to the next higher time frame and it's like, okay, it still looks good, but you know, maybe not as good. And then you go to a really high time frame, 30 minutes and above, and it's like, oh, this looks like junk. This is bad. So, you know, you really want to use the higher time frame as your overall guide. You know, if you can get into an entry and lower time frame, it's cool, it's good, but you really need to watch that higher time frame to really be your overall guide. So higher time frame tells me it's pretty junky. All right, so we just kind of wait here and let's see what's happening here. Other charts I'm testing out. I'm waiting for this 5-minute candle close, by the way, just to see what happens. So what do I want to see if I want to get into a buy? Well, I'd love to see this still be strong and pushing up. We're going to see this 15-minute close in 22 seconds. I'd love to see the 15-minute close above that line, close above that high. if they can't, then, you know, honestly, it's really a signal to me, maybe more choppiness. They bring it back down POC and we go sideways. So let's really watch this. I think this is a good point. Okay, so 15-minute candle, they came up quick. It's a clue, and they couldn't get above the 50% of the IB range for London, right? Well, I know there's battle here, right? But they were able to close above this guy, so there's something there, right? The buyers on 15-minute candles could get above the sellers that moved down here. All right, let's see if we can maybe get into something, right? Just so we can kind of see for YouTube, right? So sellers starting to move it down 15 minutes before new hour. You know, what would I look to do? It's not the greatest. I would probably look for entry right here, possibly one at 50, and another one probably down in this area somewhere, you know, and it would fill out this area. My target, yeah, it's gonna have to be like the 50%, right? I think that's what we measured out. Well, I'll measure it out if it gets down here. Okay, what about a buy? Well, I'm in my junk zone. I can't take a trade. But I will tell you one thing that I really like for a buy. Now you would be fighting a ton. So this is a great example of good setup, bad location. Timing, it's okay. But location is bad. And I think I talked about that a few times this week, that the two things that can stop me from taking a trade are time and location. Time, not too bad. You know, we've got time before the new hour. It can still move. But this one, the location is horrible. The location sitting right at the POC. And it'll just dance around here. And not only the POC, it's in my junk area. Okay, so let me give you an example of a trade that I would probably take if it was in a different location. Oh, wait, we might get this entry. All right, so I'll take it so you can see. And let me throw one entry right here, right? And I'm gonna have another entry right in this area. Okay, we'll measure out this first entry. Now, I am gonna average in because my goal right now, if I take this entry 1-to-1, it needs to continue this momentum up and it needs to hit the high, right? If I get in with this entry here, my average is going to be right in the middle. Now my 1-to-1 target is basically right in this area. So, you know, you're talking about the halfway point of the London IB range. So I'm just kind of mapping this out. And then if I was to get into this one down here, my average is going to be here. And then my 1-to-1 becomes the 50% of Europe's range. So, all right, with that roadmap in mind, that's what we will do. You know, this could be a highly risky trade, but what am I going on? I'm going on the higher time frame momentum showing up. Not a great zone to be getting involved in. Here, it's not too bad, but I'm really looking at taking a target in the junk zone is not my favorite thing to do, but we'll test this out. You know, the cost to get into this trade and play it, I think is only about $100. So we'll check this out and see if it works. Okay. While we're waiting, we'll probably see some kind of move here soon. Okay, so just for this, my stop is going to go just like a little bit below this low. Right? Okay, so I talked about a buy and bad location. So if this was a good location and not part of my junk zone, right? So what would I do? Well, I'm really watching this area because if I fib out this area, right, I can see I'm here. But let's say price doesn't come down here and it continues to move up. Then what I'm looking is my focus for an entry starts to come into this area up here. Because now what I'm looking for is the buyers to get past here, displace back up, and then come back down into this area where the move started. So, you know, if this candle here blows past this guy and pushes all the way up, then, you know, possibly what I'd be looking for is push all the way up. And then when it comes back down here, I take a buy for it to push all the way back up. Now, my rules tell me I don't trade here because I never like the price action in the junk zone. So location prevents me from taking that trade. But if it was in a different spot, different location, probably take it. And, you know, I would like it because right here, especially if the buyers step in, we got 9 minutes until the new hour. Buyers step in, they get above here, then that's going to show me one good momentum, buyers up, second momentum, buyers up. If they get here, so sellers have been taken here, sellers potentially could be taken there. Next stop here, and what happens? So that's kind of how I look at all this and how I play the game. You know, it's just about really watching what's happening on these lower time frame candles and trying to be observant as to what the chart is telling. So. Mm-hmm. All right, still watching. I'm really expecting like the new hour in 8 minutes to be our kind of ignition point. You know, I think as we get closer to the new hour, what changes for me with this trade that I have on? If we're a few minutes away, I take this off because of not location, take it off because of time. Because I know the new hour can be like wick out both directions and then take off. So as I get closer to the new hour, this trade may come off because of time, not location. But trades in here as we get closer to new hour, then it's like two things, location and time say no. So all right. Hmm. So we're still watching. Let's see, we might get entered in here. And yeah, I mean, it could really put this at jeopardy. So we're gonna go just to stop here, just really tiny on our risk. And okay, what am I looking for? I'm looking for this first entry, take it to the high. If my second one gets in, I know my average brings me to London mid. Third entry in, I need to get back to Europe mid. I'm defending the low. I'm hoping the buyers are still here on this momentum push up. You know, like I said, new hour could wick me out and just totally take me out. But that is also another management decision. If we get closer to the new hour and I'm in profit, I probably take off the other entries and move my stop to like a break even. I just don't want to get wicked out just because of a bunch of crazy orders at the start of a new hour. So we'll see here as this last 5-minute candle of the hour builds out. So they get above the POC. That's what I'm trying to really fight through. That's my one barrier right now to this trade working. Get through the POC, get through these 50% areas and hit that high. And you know, my expectation with this last move up is that that's what it should do. But if it doesn't do it, then yeah, my stop's in jeopardy. So I think my plan will be 3 minutes to the top of the hour. If I'm in profit, I will move my stop to break even. And then we'll just let it play out. If my stop is in break even or little profit, I take off these other entries. I'm just not interested in them anymore because of time. Okay. So let's just see how this plays out. Got a lot to fight through right here. You know, price can dance both ways right here. What would be a really nice positive for me is if the buyers can step in here. Okay, here we go. So sticking to my rules, my plan that I laid out, and now move my stop to break even, right? I remove these other entries because of time. Let's take that up. I'm going to leave those entries on there because you never know later when time and location are on my side. Yeah, I may take these. I may take another buy here. But for now, because of time and now location, we just let this run. This is a free trade, and we're going to see what happens, right? So expectation one more time. Sellers pushed down. Buyers pushed them right back up and took them. Sellers came down. They could not take the buyers this time. Buyers in control. Expectation. Go take this high. Right? That's what should happen. That's my expectation. What do they have to get through? They got to get through quite a bit, right? They have to get through, they almost got through this POC area so far, but now they got to fight the 50%, and the sellers have defended the 50% a few times. So all we can do is wait and see. Now, if you want, you can make a management decision. Instead of just break even, you could go below the 5-minute candle. This may be hard to see, but if buyers are here, they don't want the price to go below that 5-minute candle. So the low of the 5-minute candle, if you can't see it on YouTube, is 607. So I always like to move it just, you know, a tick or two below that. So I'll go 606.50, right? One point profit if this thing wins. Kind of covers the trade, right? So we'll just manage this. You know, and here's another kind of cool thing. What we could do, that's my expectation. The new hour does get crazy. And if they get past here, they could go even higher. So maybe I start to watch this and we really start building up some good buyer strength. Then I think my next roadmap decision will be move my stop to 50%, but then extend my target to the high of the IB. So let's just see. All right. So they hit the 50% of London. so far you got some defense here, right? Let's move this to the high of the IB range. Let's see, can the buyers get some control, take that 50% with 2 seconds left before the new hour? My expectation of new hour, you can't predict price. It could come down here, wick me out. But this is a break-even trade. It's a free trade. I'm hoping the buyers with that move up still have some control. They don't want it to get lower than that. Let's take it up there. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. That's fine. All right. So it's a break-even trade. No big deal. You know, it's always kind of cool to me to see, did any of these other entries possibly work out? You know, I feel like it's pretty high risk to take these right at a new hour. And that's why I take it off, because of the time. Unfortunately, location now up here bans me from taking a buy trade in here. I know this is like big area, really tough to trade through here, and we are right back at the POC. So what happened? They just came down, they took the buyers out over here. If I had moved my stop to break even, which I think is the smart thing to do, I still would have been out in the trade. So there was no difference there. Could you have moved your stop to a lesser stop and been here? Yeah, you could. You could do that, and then maybe it plays out. So, all right, let me little recap. So this is a challenging area to fight and take trades in, because you don't know direction in the junk zone or around POC. So my focus now would be in the future today. Take a break and be done for today, Friday. It's been, I think, a good week. So I'd be looking for price. If you're going to buy, you know, you want to see the price close above here and then start to hit your targets. You do have some price action in volume against you. So I don't know how high it goes, but you always know how NASDAQ can be. Once they start getting up here, they want to take that high. They've already taken the low of today right here. But if they push this down, let me take the entry off because I don't want that. If they push this down and they get past here, you know, you could have a target of the London 1.5. You could take a buy from these areas that are my edge reaction areas, I would call them. Now, my edge for buying is much closer to the price. My edge selling, I got a small trade in here, but I'm more interested up here. And the reason why I'm more interested up here is because this is backed up by much higher time frame movement. This is 4-hour candle action that moved the price down. So, all right. And as always, I always forget to bring up important things like if you found this analysis good, give me a thumbs up. You know, subscribe to my channel. I'm trying so hard to build this. Hopefully, I'm giving people maybe a little different perspective or ideas of how to read the chart, read the candles. And you know, one thing I would love to do here soon, once this indicator, it's not really something I trade off of, but it shows kind of the style and the analysis in the areas that are important. And I think it shows better for YouTube, so you can kind of get a hang of what I'm doing. But honestly, when I trade this, normally I don't have the indicator on. I do have the levels on. I do have the volume profile. That's important. I do have the VWAP on, and I've got pivots and the Asia session open and close from yesterday. Those lines never go. You know, the IB, those are really important levels. We need to have those on, right? But what I don't have on is that. So you can see a little bit of the difference. Now these are areas I drew out on my own, but this would normally be how I would trade. Like it's just less stuff for me to look at. You know, I usually keep the this option information on there now, but you know, I really prefer to trade without the added noise, and I think it makes a pretty big difference. Probably especially more. Let's look at 1 minute chart. I didn't look at that. That's not too bad. 2 minutes not too bad either. But if I take like an overall of the 2 minute chart and I turn the indicator off, you know, it makes the areas you're interested in much more clear. Because here's my 4-hour area I'm interested in, right? Here's my other 4-hour area I'm interested in. That's pretty clear. So like on my charts, I don't have anything in these areas I'm interested in taking a trade. Like I'd want the price to come all the way down here before I'm interested in a buy on the higher time frame. So it cleans it up. And I got a lot of my entry lines on there. But if I didn't have those on there either, it'd be pretty easy to look at. So, but if I turn this back on, I'm wondering, do things get populated in here and cause more confusion? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can see that just paints a ton of stuff. You know, a lot of fair value gaps and imbalances and supply demand areas, and it's just like a lot of noise that I don't even want to look at. So, all right, let's close that out. Put that back in 5 minutes. So yeah, so like, subscribe to my channel. Be fantastic. So I can build this out. You know, be a big added boost of support for me to see that change. And as always, I've got Bullnox, Blue Sky, Funded Next right now. I've got codes. So if you're thinking about, you know, picking up a valuation or direct to funded account or something with some of those companies, I use them all three. I vouch for all three. I think they're good companies. They do pay out. I don't think their rules are crazy stupid. So, yeah, use a code if you get a chance. Would be very nice. So I'm green for the day, $1. So, but green for the week. It's all good. So everyone have a fantastic weekend. You know, trade later, trade in New York. You know, feel free to watch some of these areas I marked on my chart. See for yourself. Do they work out? Is the reactions there or not? Did you gotten some kind of profit out of those? Yeah, I think it's cool to check my work and see if it's worth taking. But yeah, have a good weekend. We'll catch up with everyone on Monday, and we'll look to do it again. Do the same thing every day for at least the first few hours of London. Same process, same way to trade every day. Some days you get really nice trades. Some days you get price action like this that's sideways. But what's nice is you stay out of choppy, bad action that could destroy your account. So it's always good when you can do that. And to do it, you just have to watch the charts and read what the candles are telling you. So, all right, enough talking for me. I got the rest of my voice. Take a little break.
get outside, walk around in the sun for a little bit. And, yeah, we'll do that. So everyone, have a fantastic rest of today, good weekend, and we'll see you on Monday. All right, thanks so much. Take care. Bye. Do widzenia.